It's another day on Press Hour. Welcome to the program. With the election of regional councillors in December 2020, all the provisions of the 1996 constitutions were completely put in place. But there are several areas where either the legal provisions are not clear or they are misinterpreted and generate conflict of competence. That is our topic on Press Hour today, and to talk about this topic we have a full house except for one person. We have a consultant in decentralization whom some of us decide even to call him an architect of that art. He is David Aboim Achoy. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Kilian. Good day to you, good day to colleagues, good day to our televiewers.
Thank you. We are honored by your presence. And just next to you, we have lovely Angel. She is journalist with Up Africa TV. Welcome to the program, Mom.
Thank you, Kilian, and thank our televiewers.
And I want to say Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Now I turn to the left. We have Ernest Cho Ngu. He is the Director of Human Resources for Regional and Local Authorities in the Ministry of Decentralisation and Local Development. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Kilian. I hope we'll be able to do something great today so that we bring the laws and the regulations to the understanding of the general public.
That is exactly why we brought you. And our own Tewi Lambif, editorialist in CRTV, is here with us. It's a full house. Tewi, we are honored by your presence as usual.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. And first things first, we're going to call on Emanuela Vebnui with our regular slot press review that starts the program. Emanuela.
The killing of 4 soldiers in Galim West region becomes that one story on almost all newspaper columns this week. Amber fighters attack military post, kill 4 soldiers, cart away weapons and ammunitions, headlines The Guardian Post. To the Voice, Amber fighters invade West region, kill 4 soldiers, seize weapons in Galim. The Median writes 4 soldiers killed as separatist fighters attack military post in Galim West region. It is another bloody weekend in northwest and southwest in the eye of the horizon as separatists kill soldiers and civilians in Galim, Bamenda, Kumbo and Libialem. The Herald Tribune reports that suspected terrorists killed 4 soldiers in Galim. In Death News, Things Galim killings highlight worsening Anglophone crisis just when Dr. Simon Monzu calls out on separatists to give up illusion of restoring independence on the Star. Then there is a season of bad tidings as death roll continues on the Sun newspaper. Anglophones lose 2 heavyweights, so writes The Horizon, as Cameroon's first Anglophone Prime Minister Chidiachu dies on The Guardian Post. Iconic anti-corruption figure Chief Mbile dies on Municipal Update. The Sun describes Chidiachu as political fox and Bia's joker in the early 90s who quits the stage at 87. To the Post-Weekender, former Prime Minister Chidiachu, Honorable Mbile join ancestors. Cameroon Insider sees Chidiachu as elder statesman who dies at 87. As the dead are being mourned, the young are stepping in to embrace politics. Frank Bia's candidate's lobbyist deposit file at Minat, headlines The Post-Weekender. The Voice on its heels questions, will Cameroon break father to son succession rule? This as 11 political parties are legalized by the Ministry of Territorial Administration on Cameroon Insider. What The Voice Weekender sees as a Tanganji approving 11 new pro-regime political parties. World Press Freedom Day then set stage for media practitioners in Cameroon to clamor for proper working conditions. Government nips by network of Cameroon media proprietors, headlines The Herald Tribune, then sends Minister of Communication and stakeholders to brainstorm on Cameroon Insider before envisaging concrete actions to improve media practice on Cameroon Tribune. At a time attacks on journalists persist on The Guardian Post as Yaoundé Municipal Police torture, injure and detain journalists. And immediately, the Herald Tribune announces lawsuits that hang over Yaoundé 5 Council after torturing 2 journalists. Before Barrister Ntumfo Nico Hale hails professionalism of media, but regrets they have failed to fight hate speech. Then, newspaper publishers hand over 5-point memo to government on World Press Freedom Day on the Sun newspaper. The recruitment of PhD holders into State University as lecturers, hate speech under the scanner of the Musonge Commission, Minat's boss decision to go tough on illegal proliferation, circulation of firearms, and the conflict of competence between Yaoundé City Council and that of Yaoundé 5, seen as unnecessary battle, also form stories reported by the papers this week. Let's now end our press review with this story on the Horizon newspaper, where 2 reporters of Canal 2 TV were molested by Yaoundé 5 Council police. The reporters are said to have been covering a strike action staged by motorbike riders when their camera was seized and thrown away. The reporters were rough-handled with beatings by the municipal police. According to reports by one of the reporters, the mayor came out in the heat of the tussle, entered his car and drove away without a word. The cameraman, who was in bad shape then, is said to be okay today, but the camera remains destroyed. This attack has been seen by many as an attack on press freedom. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. It was very embarrassing this past week for onlookers to see that the city council and the subdivisional councils, some of them, 2 in Yaoundé, Yaoundé 5 and Yaoundé 7, had open confrontation that led to demolition, led to destruction of buildings that were built. And people who are here, they were asking themselves, are they not the same authorities? Do they not agree? It is due to conflict of competence. We're going to look at these examples in Yaoundé that obviously are telling for what is either happening or going to happen in the similar structures across the country. Now, I'm not going to introduce the guest again. I am going to give the floor first to the Director of Human Resources for regional and local authorities, Mr. Ngu Cho Ernest. How do you interpret as the supervisory authority such acts?
Well, Mr. Kylian, it is an unfortunate, these are unfortunate situations, because when we look at the law, many would want to say that we have certain aspects or gray areas in the law, but when I look at it with the eyes of an expert, I don't see those gray areas. When you see things like this happening between the city mayor and the subdivisional mayors, I tend to put them all into personal problems, because the laws are very strict on this. When you get to the code on regional and local authorities, you exactly see where the competencies of the city mayor are, and you see where the competencies of the subdivisional mayors end, where they start and they end. Which means that at the end of the day, each person is supposed to start and end within the ambits as laid down by the law. I should draw our attention to the fact that the law states that of all the 60 or 61 competencies that were transferred to the councils, 19 of them have been specifically removed from the control or the power of the subdivisional mayors. They have been removed from the subdivisional mayors, and that is what constitutes the power of the city council or the mayor of the city. Which means that if at the end of the day the city mayor wants to undertake certain issues, they should fall within those 19, while the rest or the remainder are within the competencies of the subdivisional mayor.
When we look at, even with the 19 that have been removed, that have been taken away from the subdivisional mayors and given to the city mayor, when we look at the portfolio, the various areas of competence of the city mayor, very little is left from my layman point of view with the subdivisional mayor. Probably that's why this agitation and they have to come on to do this.
Yes, like I said, it's a matter of trying to exercise power. But power can only be exercised within the dictates of the law. If we say very little remains, then they should stay with the little that the law gives them. It states, I shall paraphrase, that the actions or the competencies that shall be exercised by the holders or the wielders of the power of mayor of subdivisional council should be within those small, if you want me to say, in quotes, activities that touch the lives of mainly those within the geographical sphere that they have control over.
Yeah, we'll come back to you, but before I get to other panelists, I'm going to ask you, you are the Director of Human Resources for regional and local authorities. Yeah. We mean that you're supposed to have an eye on all what is happening. Building a structure like the commercial center that was destroyed and other areas that does not take one day. When it is happening, where are you to make sure that this type of thing that would be costly to the state do not happen?
That is another aspect of the law, which is the free management, the free will to run the activities of the local or regional authority as they see fit. There's an aspect of the law that we keep on neglecting, which is the a posteriori control, the a posteriori control of those activities, which means they act and then you tell them later. The Ministry of Decentralisation and Local Development has this advice and follow-up power, but does not come before. And the law also says when we have conflict like that between one authority and the other, no authority should go to destroy the property of another. The aspect of the law that we keep on neglecting is the role of the judge. It's the role of the judge. We should underline that particular role of the judge.
You are an expert, a consultant. I will always like to call you an architect of decentralization. So how do you appreciate what happens with this example in Yaoundé and by extension to other city mayors and subdivisional mayors around the country?
Well, it is unfortunate what has been happening between the city mayor and those two subdivisional mayors. But I would like to start by saying that conflicts are very normal because they are acting on the same field, the same area, and as the director put it, you may not have such gray areas, but you may have a gray interpretation. Because when a competence is framed in a certain way, it may be very general. And we tend to interpret it into to our advantage. And that's what is happening. And even when the core of the competence does not fall within the ambit of the competence of the city council, they hang on a procedural aspect. For instance, in Yaoundé 7, they said, well, you did not receive a building permit, which is issuing a building permit falls within the competence of the city council. So he hung on that, but that, according to me, did not authorize him to go and destroy. And what lacked here, and I was very happy when listening to the senior divisional officer, was consultation. Because they belong to the same party, they are working to serve the same people on the same area, that our telephones are working. I don't see why they could not use all those avenues in order to solve their problems. The second thing I like to say is that we should not be surprised to have such competences, such conflicts. If the law made a provision that in case of a conflict they should go to the law courts, it is because the legislator was sure that
there's going to be conflict.
Yes, that they were having conflicts. Mm-hmm. And there's another form of conflicts that has not yet emerged, but that will definitely emerge. It's between the local authorities and the regional divisional and subdivisional services of the state. That one will surely emerge, because there too we have some gray areas which need to be specified and explained to everybody.
We have provision for that during the program. We are actually going to come to that because we are told that the Ministry of Decentralization and Local Authority, they are not actually the ones who give competencies, they supervise. Is that correct, sir?
Very correct.
They facilitate.
Yes.
Okay, now before I go to Tewi, and you talked about the destruction that happened, that they could have consulted so many areas before doing that, and that there are special interest, probably personal, that happened. Let us ask this question. Was the city mayor not behaving as a deterrent to others who probably could take that as an example and continue to defy the law?
A deterrent? I don't think so. I think there was a misunderstanding. You know, all of them are young people. Sometimes they react the way young people react without thinking twice. I think the city mayor will like to show his imperium over the city, and the others will like to show their imperium over the subdivisional council. And I think that's where the conflict comes from. But really what I would advise is that since they are working for us, they should always get into consultation. Even if one of them thinks that the other one does not respect his or her competences, it doesn't cost anything to take his phone and call him, or go to him and meet with him and discuss with him. I think it is always, that's what collaboration means. It is not the supervisory authority that will go and tell them, oh, you should cooperate every day. It should be a natural thing among themselves. That's what I would like to say about it.
And you say it's an advice. I should tell you that I know some of these people are very difficult at their different ends. When you look at this subject, this particular subject of city mayor and subdivisional mayors going to the point of destruction, how do you appreciate this?
Well, there's only one thing to say, Killian. We say that you cannot sow corn and expect to harvest beans. What is happening is simply the result of duplication, of the fragmentation of responsibilities, of having too many structures doing the same thing. That is where you have conflict. Those are the seeds of conflict. You have, like in decentralization, like in finance, like in other areas of governance, you have so many structures doing the same thing, and that's why there's bound to be conflict. You have, before, we had the government delegates. What simply changed is the name. What has changed is the name. Nothing has fundamentally changed. Now, these people see themselves as the bosses of the subdivisional council, of course. And this is what is going to happen. You have regional...
In the light of what you are saying, there is a name that systematically they want people not to call, in French, super mayor or super mayors.
But that's it. But they might say people should not say it, but that's how the people consider their office. That's how they see themselves. They see themselves as the super mayors. Simple. That's all. But why can't we copy? There are other cities in the world that are far bigger than Yaoundé or Douala. They have a mayor, and those cities, look at New York, look at London, look at... It's a mayor that has the authority. What is this thing of... I should even answer the question. Some of these positions are created to serve as areas of political compensation to loyalists. That's it. It's a purely political game that has nothing to do with community development. It is just the interest of compensating people for their political loyalty.
That to me has no problem. The problem is if they are wrongly used.
Of course, they are. They cannot, like I keep on saying, and this is coming to with regional councils. You would see that this conflict will only be moving from one level to another, as the experts started saying. This is just between the mayors themselves. There's going to be another level with the administration, with the governors and the deals and the sub-deals. You see?
Yes, thank you. Loughlin, we are still on this particular incident. How do you interpret from your own point of observation?
Yeah, sincerely, I'm not going to move away from what Lambif just said, because that's exactly what I had in mind. We have a lot of actors on the field, and there's bound to be leader conflict of competence, conflict of roles. He said something like it's a compensation to loyalists, and you say you don't have a problem with that. But what if I am a loyalist and I am not competent to occupy a post? Should I be given the post because I'm a loyalist? There's a problem there. Am I necessary? Am I a necessity at the post where I am? Look at, there are so many actors. They take from the city mayor right down to the subdivisional mayors. There is a problem. We still have the SDOs that have their own part to play there. We have the SDOs, we have the DOs. We have councillors. The actors are just too much. I think if they have to maintain it, the government needs to come back to the drawing board and do something about that.
She says the government has to come back. You are a consultant. Are there conception problems with this, with the regional institutions?
I think it depends on what we want. If we want to serve our people very closely, we need to go close to them. And it was felt that a city mayor may not be close to all the quarters, all the nooks and corners of the town. That's why the law provided for managing the vicinity. And they said, to manage the vicinity, we need somebody who lives there, who knows the people, and who can see that, well, in front of this house, we have garbage, behind this river, where people are dumping plastic bottles and papers and things like that. That was what was thought. I have no problem with that, to have many people. The problem is, how do they share their roles and responsibilities?
That's where the problem.
That's where the problem comes from. If it is clearly spelled out, I think we'll avoid these problems. And you know, we have this. You talked about councillors and the other officials. We have this notion of participation. Decentralization is based on participation, popular and people's participation. It is necessary to have the people, not only their representatives, but the people, as vast as that notion can be, to have them participate in the management of their own affairs. That's why it was split into all those things. It is true that sometimes they walk on everyone another's legs, toes, but it is unfortunate, and that's where I agree with Loughlin. It would be necessary to specify more clearly who is to do what. And there's a provision for that, because if you heard what the Minister of Decentralisation and Local Development said during this issue of Pujolan in Banga, he said that it is true the law provides for transfer of competence to mayors, but we still need a decree to specify the modalities of implementation of those competences, and after the decree we'll need another text to specify the special clauses of implementation of every aspect of the competence. And the government is working on this. In their ministries, they have already drawn up many drafts, which have, from what I heard, been sent to the higher superior authorities.
We'll come back to you, Director of Human Resources for Regional and Local Authorities. When you listen to this, you know obviously that you are in for trouble to settle. Well, probably not settle because we have specialized bodies to do that, but it falls within your competence. You are ready to handle all of this. What others are you working to go out for eventually, to be proactive?
Yeah, the first thing to do is to get everybody on the same wavelength as far as the understanding of the law is concerned. Because when we started this program, we said there are some gray areas. Meanwhile, some of us think they are not. Other people, we interpret them according to, they say, you can only see the street from your window. So now, if that is how they want to see the streets, and there is somebody who is telling them that, no, I'm at the street, this is how the street is. Let me go back to this question of the conflict between the city mayor and the two other subdivisional mayors. There is an aspect in Article 241 of the Code which says that the geographical location of a project, that geographical location means perhaps at the boundary of two subdivisional councils. So when we have a project at that particular position, which of them is competent to take? Let the city council come in, because it will bring into play a collaboration between the two and them. So those are one of the areas that the city council comes in. The other one, which might cause this small confusion, is the importance of the project. Now, who determines the importance of the project? The importance of the project, that gives more visibility to the town, that the city mayor is competent. So you might have a subdivisional mayor who thinks that I have to beautify my own section. But all those areas, like I said, the 19 that have been removed and given to the city mayor forms part of it. And that's where you will try to see that. But at the end of the day, a subdivisional mayor might say, I have a 5-year tenure. I have to leave something for posterity, and they might be tempted to get into those fares which have been ceded to the city mayor. Those are 3 special areas that have been ceded to the city mayor.
Director, excuse me, I'm not cutting you short. There's an issue here that I think you talk about who determines the importance of a project. Well, you agree with me that projects are coming to solve a problem. How come, or how does a city mayor decide or determines the importance of that project without working with the community? Because
Exactly.
Working with community means that you go in, closer to the subdivisional mayors and, of course, to the community, to the people.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that will fall directly in line with what...
The consultation.
Yep, it will fall directly in line.
Yes.
And let me say that the code also spells out for coherent and balanced development. It means that the project from the grassroots must tie in line with the main project as determined by the national policy for general development of the country, which means that mayors or councils don't just get projects haphazardly. If those things were done in that order, you will have coherence. Consultation is the key between the city mayor and all the regional.
And in this particular case, I attended the consultation meeting between the senior divisional officer for Fundi, the mayor of Yaoundé 7 and the mayor of Yaoundé 5, and the other mayors who attended to make sure that this incident should not replicate to other subdivisional mayors of the town. And the watchword was that a platform was created that will make sure it doesn't happen. Then we're going to take your contribution here, and then we'll bring in some other
Yes, I just wanted to say that there is something which is fundamental, and we seem to be looking only at the technical, the law, and all of that. There is what I call the politicization of every aspect of community development in this country. I could not imagine that development should have political coloration. We would declare that it doesn't, but it does. How do you explain that 2 elected officials from the same party, elected on the same platform, with the same ideology,
in the same town,
would go one electing the other every day?
Yes, would get loggerheads. It simply means that this thing is hastily done and done for other political reasons that one does not understand.
It's not even a call of a political party,
No,
because
I'm
it's
saying
one
that,
political
yes,
party.
I'm saying that it is the politicization. It can be from within the same party. There is political homogeneity, and so one would expect some smoothness, some consensus. What is they meet in their subsections, in their section meetings? What do they discuss then, if not to discuss the development of the community, of the areas where they have
For common good.
For the common good. Mm-hmm. There again comes the issue of ego. Ego. People think that, who are you? I even overheard one of the those concerned declaring that, what are you talking about? I worked on those laws. I wrote them. Who cares?
I heard that also. Now, yes, please.
Just one thing. I think what is happening in Yaoundé, and you use the word, is a personality conflict. It's ego. We have 14 cities like Yaoundé in Cameroon. Yeah. We have 14 of them with subdivisional mayors. But you have not heard it in Limbe, in Kumba.
Those councils have always existed.
Yes.
We have never heard.
Yes.
I think Kumba had existed as an urban council.
Yes, that's the first time.
Limbe has existed, it never happened. But even before these elections in Yaoundé, it existed with a former mayor.
Yes.
It was the same.
Well, but what we think is that if it starts
even in
here,
Douala, we don't hear it as
that if it starts here, it is going
1994.
Yeah.
Yes. It is not something new.
No, it's not new.
So it's just the beginning. If it happens here, it can happen elsewhere.
Yes.
And our question now is, this is happening in a francophone zone, and we, with the new regional institutions put in place, we have special measures put for the Northwest and Southwest, enveloped in what is called a special status. Now we have the public independent conciliator, who is supposed to do this. When that comes, when such problems come up, we don't wish that they will come, but as we know, it's likely that they will come up. How is it going to be handled? Will it be the local and public administrator, like it happened in Yaoundé with the senior divisional officer, when the public independent conciliator is there? How will this happen in the Northwest and Southwest? To you, sir, and then to the director.
I think in the Northwest and Southwest, if this happens tomorrow, and we already have a regional public independent conciliator, I think he should jump in and try to reconcile them before the deconcentrated authorities get in. I think that will be his role, because according to the law, he is to reconcile local authorities among themselves and the local authorities with the users, the people. I think that will be his responsibility.
It doesn't actually remove the role of the local public administrator.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes,
that the SDO is still there.
Yes.
To me, in the North and Southwest region, it's what I'm calling the fragmentation of interventions. It will be even more acute, because when the public independent conciliator comes in, the SDO will want to come in.
Naturally.
Okay.
He represents the city.
So it is, they've created more problems.
Okay, the director from the Ministry of Decentralisation is here.
The senior divisional officer has his role. The public independent conciliator, or PIC, as we call him, has his own role. He reconciles. The SDO of Mfundi did that perhaps exceptionally. It is
no, the law says it.
No, to reconcile people.
No, that when there's such conflict, I read it.
Yeah.
That when the representative of the state,
yes,
and in a division is the SG.
No,
yes.
it is him. Mm-hmm. And I said, what is his role in decentralization?
Mm-hmm. So are you saying that he's acted out of place?
No, I say he did that, except he can advise. Not so. He can advise and he can follow up. Most of the time, those things happen, as I said, after the fact. Now we shouldn't confuse what he did and what the PIC is going to do in the Northwest and Southwest regions. The PIC is going to do exactly what the Excellency said: reconcile the regional and local authority with the people who have grievances against the acts of the region or the council. Remember, they too can do wrong against the people. That is the first role. The second now, to reconcile the RLAs among them when there is such a problem. But even before they get there, remember I said before that we have the court of law, which in what happened here in Yaoundé and what should happen everywhere, that is always the first part. Immediately there is conflict of competence. No authority has the right to demolish the structures of another because the law states, again I repeat, they are all equal in status. No local authority is the superior to another.
Now, you have repeatedly said that where you intervene to solve problem is after the act.
Yep.
There is no room for proaction. Is it not something which doesn't actually solve a problem? Because after the act, destructions you only come into take care.
There shouldn't be destruction. That's what we are saying.
When destruction could be not only the material.
Immediately there is conflict of competence. A party that thinks that it is my competence that is being trampled upon goes to court, and the court takes an injunction and says, "Stop until I hear this matter." So you will not get to
destruction.
Let us use this cultivate this habit of seeking the law court.
Now,
if I could just add something to what the director has said, there's room for proaction, but what happened was that even those two subdivisional mayors were not aware that their buildings were going to be demolished, and I don't think the SDU knew that those buildings were to be demolished, so it wouldn't have proacted. To react to what we said. The SDO, the supervisory authority, is still there, and according to the law, his function is to advise. He can advise before, he can advise after. That's why he called them to give advice. But he couldn't impose anything on them. He cannot.
He cannot anymore.
But the case of the Northwest and the Southwest with special status, what would the SDO do that the public independent consultator cannot do?
Those are the question we're asking. And who should come in to solve those problems? We mean that at the level of the person, the third party who is coming in, there is already another conflict at that level. That is
no, I don't see it. I don't see the conflict at the level of the third party. There are two parties quarreling here. Let's put it as such. But one party has always has to seize the opportunity.
This is what we are saying, sir.
Yeah.
The public independent conciliator is for a whole region, and he has to come in to conciliate people, users, regional and local authorities where they have conflict. He also has to intervene to make sure he solves problems between the regional authorities themselves. Now, these regional authorities and users, they operate within an administrative unit where you have the DO, you have the senior divisional DO.
You have the governor.
Yes, and they will have the governor. Are you saying he is going to...
And you have regional delegates.
You even have regional delegates. We are going to come to that.
No, those are people of devolved central services who have practically only the same powers that their heads at the central level will have delegated to them. The regional delegates of Mindevel or the others can only help us to do the same advice.
Let's say it's too technical. Can you help here, sir?
Yes, I think it is very clear. The governor, the SDO, the DOs are there to make sure that the law is respected and that the state interests are protected. That's why they are there. But they cannot jump in to do the job of the chairman of the region or the city mayor or a subdivisional mayor or a mayor. They cannot do that.
So we mean that there's a problem there. Because these people want to do what they have to do.
The SDOs?
The DO himself has to make sure there is peace. He has to come in.
Authority.
It is the director will.
What is supervisory authority?
Yes.
It is
what's his role? That's what he's going to.
Supervisory authority.
And what does he do?
No, it is the SDO. No, when it comes to the level, when it comes to councils, it is the SDO. When it comes to the regional authority, it is the governor.
What does the SDO do?
Now,
I want to show that there is
an issue.
There is conflict. There's potential for conflict.
No, not with the SDO. I said the supervisory authority or the representative of the state who plays the role of supervisory authority advises before and after.
Now,
the free management of the regional or local authority behoves on the heads, the elected heads of those structures. In the case of a conflict between a city mayor, let's take the city mayor of Bamenda, and perhaps the subdivisional mayor of Bamenda 3,
yes.
And you think that the SGO can still call them to advise. But it is not like an intervention like in the days where you think
and what would the public independent conciliator do? That is the question we're asking.
The public independent conciliator mostly moves when he is, a matter is brought to him by petition. You call him and say, I have this.
Yes.
And then he gives an advice. His advice at the end might not be binding. The only binding decision can be taken by the court. So we have about 3 different people who can help them. The best for them is the court.
Good. Now,
even the SGO's advice is not binding.
It is not binding.
It is not binding.
You see, then it means that we are right to say that this conflict of competence is a deep-rooted issue that we have to look at.
It's a cankerworm. It's a cankerworm.
Okay, now...
what I understand now is like, we want decentralization, and it's like we don't want it. Because from the discussion, it's like people still think that the GO should have that power to say, stop this and stop that. We are trying to give power to the elected officials, and we think that they are people of the law who are going to respect the law.
Which is okay.
People still want that.
No, it's not us people like you're saying. The problem is we need some clarity in their role. That's why they say there's conflict of competence.
There will always be.
That conflict is because nobody knows where he or she her boundaries are. Or even if they know, they should be, because when we talk even about this public independent conciliator, how independent is that one? How independent is him? And when we go to the court, we know the system of the court. While in the court, what happens?
Every matter that has been brought before the court stops the matter before the independent conciliator.
Yes, a matter which has been ruled on by the court. The public independent conciliator has nothing to do with it.
Sure.
That one is clear. Yes, I
just wanted to react to what the director said about people not wanting decentralization. It is the other way. I think it's the other way. It is you in Yaoundé who are holding back decentralization.
Exactly.
Ask me how. If you don't ask me, I'll say it. This is what they do is like you sell a goat to somebody and you keep the rope. That is what Yaoundé is doing.
We have taken all the power from the GO.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are the regional councils operational as we speak?
Yeah, the meta director you answer exceptionally. Yeah, I ask questions but answer this.
I want things we're conversing. Yes. If he then I will follow up.
Yep.
Because I want to prove something that the decentralization thing has remained on paper.
No,
it's working. Maybe not the way we want.
It's not working.
It might be starting late, but they're operational. All of them shall be having their first budgetary session to kickstart their activities in 2 weeks.
After they agitated for it.
No,
they spoke in the media.
And I can tell you, I was there, and it was to me they spoke.
Yeah,
I was there, and it was to me they spoke when I explained things to them. And the lateness of 4 months, I explained to them, and I said, when do you think you people? And they said, in 2 weeks they're starting. I said, when you start in 2 weeks, we are going to be able to judge you.
Yes, I tell you, the regional presidents, the regional assembly presidents, given the two, that's how they are called in the Francophone and Anglophone zone. I am told that they have already logistics.
They have logistics.
And buildings. We mean that
logistics that have come with problems. So
that's one. It has come all the same.
Problems.
It has come all the same now.
Talking about the computer.
The computer.
And that I can explain.
Those are logistics that are coming with problems already.
Yes.
Because of still logistical problems, the equipment for the littoral went to the southwest. And the following day, the minister dispatched the head of the division for information systems to go correct it, because in hurry, equipment for the littoral went to the...
So that was corrected.
Did you hear it from the northwest?
No, it wasn't corrected.
Of course.
Okay, the problem.
If it's corrected.
See, Dewi, please, let's move on.
And it was a simple problem. How long does it take to move from French to English in a software? Is it not just to change the language?
Well, those things are technically simple.
That's what you think.
But they are
people want to
very
know
complicated.
Yes, and it was an embarrassment for me because I was the team leader.
Now, when you were talking earlier, you talked about 61 competencies that have been in progressively they are being transferred to the regional and local authorities. 61, is that the number?
Yeah.
To local authorities.
To local authorities.
No, they're two different.
Yes.
73 to regions, 61. They are not the same. Not the same number.
Okay, so 19 to local authorities have not yet been transferred. How many have been transferred? How many are pending?
No.
That's not what I said.
That's not the same
61 have been transferred. Out of the 61, 19 fall within the ambit of the city councils. City councils.
By saying that they have been transferred, can we say do we see that on the ground? What do you mean by transfer?
His Excellency was explaining how the process of transfer works. This code specifically states the competencies that shall be transferred. Now, they are technical means of that transfer. He cited the decree by the PM and the special register, the register of special clauses. And let me say that 20 ministries were identified as the ministries that are going to transfer all those competencies. 20 ministries.
So we are saying
among
that
the 20, those
competencies have not yet been transferred.
And he said the text is already at the highest authority of.
Yeah, they have not even been transferred. That's what we're saying.
It is until it is signed. Then you know that.
But did we know that this was going to happen?
Please, David, allow me to illustrate for you and our televiewers to understand better.
Exactly.
When you take the law, it is stated that the regions are competent for the promotion of small and medium-sized enterprises. The government has the same responsibility. Now, we need a decree to specify what the government should do and what the regions should do. So, where does the government responsibility stop and where does the region's responsibility start? We need a text for that. And once that is taken, we need to specify the clauses. Now, when the regions are promoting the small and medium-sized industries and enterprises, how can they be assisted by government-devolved services? How are they going to cooperate with the government services in the subdivision and the division and the region, which are responsible for the same activities?
Those are the things we are questioning. Yes.
We have some of the best laws, which remain best as they are on paper. Let me take an example that I know very well. Take the law, the audiovisual, the decree.
Yeah, briefly, since you are getting out of our topic.
It took 20 years for the text of application to come. Here we are. We already created the regions. They are operational. Then they are waiting for the special clauses.
Let me just chip in.
Yes, please.
For the first time. For the first time.
Because they are special.
We don't before.
For the first time, let me tell him that government has been more prepared than before. Take the 2004 law on orientation of decentralization. The first text, the implementation decrees came 4 years later. But I'm telling you about something that shall be done
4 years
in 2 weeks.
And that will be it. So to be late, the law was promulgated in December 2019, right?
Yes.
And then in 2024, a year. And a year and a half plus. I think it's record.
Mr. Director, it should not be like that.
It shouldn't be like that. But we have never been able to get to this stage.
These things that we create a law, a decree, a text of application, all of these take time. And that is why were we electing people to wait for 4 months before they start operating?
Now, if we want people to participate, I think it is once they are elected, then we associate them in determining those various competencies.
And I think before their election is because there's a need on the field.
There's a need on the field.
Yeah.
But if the government does it by itself, you will say that it did not associate the people concerned. So it is only once they have been elected and they have assumed their duties, then you are...
We have the National Decentralization Council.
Which has been existing before.
Yes.
And now, how does it sit without the representatives of the regions? Since they weren't...
But it has been sitting now.
No, I'm watching you say.
I'm watching now the regional authorities have come. The National Decentralization Council can sit now because they are there.
With all due respect, there is not a
valid all those.
Yeah, we're going to take Elvis Teke with reactions from our viewers in Cameroon and around the world on this topic. You've been watching us. Thank you for being there, for your confidence. We'll take the reactions, and when we come back, we're going to look at the devolution of powers. We hear in the budget the councils have to have 15% with corresponding amounts, and whether these councils are ready for all these very heavy powers to be devolved to them. Elvis, good day, welcome.
Thank you, Killian.
The reactions?
Yes, quite a number. I'll take us a few. We begin with Tachi Roland, who says hello to the crew. That he thinks the problem of competence is mostly observed in towns where there are city mayors, and the city mayors are acting as an executive organ in the council, and they interfere with the affairs of the local councils in the whole region. And he thinks that the decentralization ministry should organize more training for better, effective decentralization and competence transfer for these elected officials. Mbonewo Brian says, greetings to the entire panel. The introduction of decentralization was a great initiative, but its implementation is a failure. The conflict between the super mayor and the mayor of Yaoundé 7 is a strong indication of that, the fact that Mindevel is still having a long way to go, and let them organize more training sessions. For Eugene, say decentralization for now is nowhere is needed, but genuine dialogue and intentional and inclusive dialogue so that people can work together as brothers and sisters.
Take the last one.
Prince Motabeme Obesa Mudika says the problem is not competence. The main problem is the political interference by hierarchy in the affairs of local councils.
Thank you very much, Elvis Teke. Thank you also very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your interest in the program, for those contributions. And we've taken note of those contributions. If there's any swift reaction from the contributions we take before I introduce.
Yeah, just the last one. I don't see how political interference can come into the conflict between the city mayor of Yaoundé and the sub-divisional mayors.
Yeah, I note with satisfaction 2 of the 3 reactions that Mindevel should organize more sensitization workshops. That's exactly what we are doing.
Well, I think that contrary to what the expert says, I think everything seems to be political here. To say that there is no political intervention is to deny the reality. When we were told, these people are elected on the platform of a political party, and that political party has a program. And if I say that the program of the ruling CPDM and its leader was decentralization, some people had asked for federation, some had even gone for outright separation. But the fact that they voted them on their platform means that they accepted their program. But they are the ones holding back on the program.
Okay, to me, there's everything political about it. First, away from what Tewi is saying, we should understand that we've seen places where people react or take certain actions because they feel that they are linked to a particular personality who is higher in the party.
Now, thank you very much for reacting to those reactions from our viewers. Now, in the 4 minutes that we are left with, we're going to ask you, with the so much power supposed to be devolved to the council, to the local authorities, I should say, knowing the capacity, the technical, managerial, human resource capacity of these councils, that, to be very frank here, those things are below average. If these competencies are transferred, would they not collapse under the weight? Director, you first.
Collapse under the weight, I don't know. But what I know is that there is quite a lot to be done as far as the building of the capacitation of the leaders of those local councils are concerned. It is, they were voted on political platforms, and most of the time when you go there, you see their action, their management still calls, it raises so many doubts.
That's exactly the question. We mean that they are not ready. That's the question I asked. By collapsing under the weight, is like...
No, not just on the face. At the end of the day, they say in French, on juge le maçon au pied du mur. So let them kick start, and then we'll see how far they will go.
We hope that there will not be bad builders with bad doers.
Yes, I think we should be realistic. There will be no day when the local councils will have all the human resources to face to shoulder their responsibilities. That's why the law made a provision for cooperation with government services, and it is meant that these regional, divisional, and sub-divisional delegates representing ministries should work for the local councils and the regions according to conventions signed between the local councils and the regions on the one hand, and those services on the other hand. But the thing is that for those conventions to be effective, we need a format which is to be approved by the government. And I will call on Mendevel to hasten up, because we have been waiting for that format for 20 years now.
No, that's what I've been saying.
Okay, since you are talking,
he has finally agreed with what I was saying. To say the least, I think that when we are taking a decision that touches on the lives of people, when it has to do with how clean is my backyard, how do I have water, how do I have electricity, where do my children go to school, which hospitals, these are things that touch on the lives of the people. And to me, there should be no politicization of this whatsoever. Secondly, quickly, to say that this decentralization is something good, but if we are not careful, the way it is implemented will fail. Because when they talk of 20 competencies, we've devolved 15, 17%. What does this represent? Be more concrete at times to say that we have decided that schools will be managed by
the local councils. Okay, we got your point. Thank you very much. We got your point.
We need a debate on that.
Yes,
exactly.
Talking about all of that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. Okay, there should be more clarity, more training, to all the stakeholders, and more to that. I think our local communities need some more financial and administrative autonomy.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. We also want to thank all of you for watching us in Cameroon and around the world. Thank you for your confidence. Now we know decentralization in Cameroon is on the move. There are problems that have to be solved to make sure that it's accepted and it avoids conflicts of competence. Thank you once again. There will be a rebroadcast of this program Monday between 2:30 and 3 p.m. Thanks once again. Have a nice day. Happy Mother's Day to all mothers.
Covid-19 n'est pas une fiction, c'est une réalité. Je l'ai eu et j'en suis sorti guéri.